Welcome to the Transform My Dance Studio podcast, the only podcast for dance studio owners, where each week we bring you business growth strategies to help you increase your profits, impact the lives of more students, while ensuring you get back some time to have a little life outside of the studio. It's time for you to become the go-to studio in your area. Now, here's your host, founder of the Dance Studio Owners Association, Clint Salter.
Hey there, dance studio owners. It's Clint here, and welcome to another episode of the Transform My Dance Studio podcast. Today's guest is Ben Fewtrell, and he's passionate about coaching business owners to take action, which we all need, achieve their goals, and claim back their lives. And this is really exactly what we talk about in the Dance Studio Owners Association every day. So it's great that we've got a guest who's really aligned to our values and our mission. Now, like a lot of you, Ben started his own business at a very young age of 18. And then he spent, the next 3 years working really long hours as an owner and a driver. By 24, Ben had grown his own transport company to such success that he decided to sell the business in order to become a business coach and really help others, which seems like is his absolute passion. So, Ben, I want to welcome you to the show. You now own, which I love, one of the most successful action coach firms in the world. So I can't wait to dive more into that, because you must be a bit of a master coach to have one of the best performing practices with Action Coach. So Ben, welcome to the show. Thanks for chatting to us today.
Thanks, Clint, for having me. It's my pleasure to be here, buddy.
And so, Ben, tell us a little bit more about what you do now inside of your business.
So I guess, 15 years ago when I sold my transport company, when people say it was successful, I was turning over millions of dollars, had 60-odd trucks on the road. But the reality was it wasn't a business, it was a job. And, if I wasn't there, it wouldn't work, so it really relied on me. And so over the last 15 years, what I've really put myself to task on is learning how to build a business that doesn't rely on me as an individual. And I think that's the thing a lot of business owners struggle with. And so, you were saying there in the introduction, which I really appreciate, that I must be a master coach, but I'm actually not a very good coach. I don't coach at all. And that's one of the keys to the success is I've got a great team of coaches that do all the coaching, which allows me to focus on building the business. And so now what I do is focus on that team of mine teaching other small business owners how to get out of doing all the work, working in their business all the time, so they can work on the business, because working on the business is where the money's made. Working in the business is where we earn a living, So it's about getting that mindset shift so you can start working on the business.
Yeah, totally. Something we talk about a lot. Now, Ben, I want to ask you on that. We've got a lot of dance studio owners who have started their business because they were passionate about dance. Maybe they had a dance, was teaching at a dance studio and thought, wow, this looks easy. I'm going to open up my own business. And then along with opening a business, comes all the things that we're not familiar with, like staff, like dealing with parents, like finances, all the things that it takes to run a business. Now, if we've got our dance studio up and running and we're thinking, I'm working so much in my business, I'm not working on it. What are a couple of initial steps that we can take to become more of the business owner, not the person that's like stuck in the business?
Yeah, great question. I think it's a challenge, not just dance studios having. We've worked with a lot of dance studios, and it's pretty typical of anybody in a technical field where there's a skill that's been learned over many years, that, they start the business. And of course, because they have that technical skill that they love, they end up doing all the work in. And that's a real challenge. And you've got to make a decision. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, Clint. If you want to be the person that does all the work and you want to work hard and you just want to earn a living and have a job working for yourself, that's called being self-employed, and that's completely acceptable. But if you want to build a business that doesn't rely on you working in it, so you can go on holidays, or, God forbid something happens and you get sick and the business can still support you, or maybe have an asset that you can sell, then you need to start making a few changes in the way that you operate and think. And I think, to give you a couple of quick ideas of what people can do. The first thing to do is work out all the tasks that you're doing that are low skill and low fun for you. So, for example, if you're cleaning the dance studio and you don't enjoy cleaning the dance studio, maybe it's time to hire that out to a contractor to do that for you. If there's anything you're doing, like maybe you're scheduling your classes or something and you could pay someone else to do that, then maybe it's time to find someone to do that, because these days it's so easy to outsource work. It's never been easy, and I really think that's a key thing. The second thing is to start putting time aside in your diary that you deliberately put there for working on the business. And this is a tough thing to do, because what happens is we get caught up in what I call the demand zone, and that's when we end up working in the business. And that's, the phone rings, it's got to be answered. There's a dance class on, we've got to run it. A customer is not happy with something that happened with their, in their dance class or with their child or whatever, so you've got to fix it. These are all things that demand your time instantly and you're reactive to. And then we've got all these things that are not urgent but are extremely important, and this is what's called being proactive. So they're things like putting my marketing plan together or my business plan, or working on some systemization or a bit of team training or something like that where it's working on. So you've got to put that time away and make it a deliberate effort where you go, you know what, maybe Friday mornings from 9 till 1 p.m. I'm working on the business. I can't be interrupted. And I suggest doing it somewhere else. Go to the local car wash, and whilst they're washing your car, sit in the cafe with your laptop and work on your business.
Yeah, I think we're in a great place now because we've got a lot of our members that go to co-working spaces, so they'll just go and sit in an office for they can't do it all day, but they can do it for 3 or 4 hours just to get that space and get in an environment where they can really work on moving forward. One of the resistance points there, Ben, is a lot of our studio owners will say, great, I've got this list now of the low value tasks, the high value tasks, what I should be working on, but I'm not making enough money to, employ someone or bring someone on board to help with those tasks. How do you coach people around that, or how does your team coach people around that?
Yeah, another great question, mate. I think, and once again, this is a real mindset challenge, right? Because what happens is they typically like a dance studio owner will do the work in the business because they think they're saving the money without thinking about what it's going to cost them. Now, here's the challenge. The challenge is that when you do the work in the business, you get paid immediately. It's called earning money. You're trading your time for cash. The challenge with that is it's limited, right? So the amount of time you have and the amount someone is willing to pay you per hour is limited. And so you can only earn so much. When you work on the business, you're making money. Now, you don't get paid for that instantly like you do when you're working in. So, that's the challenge. So you've got to now balance the cash flow to make that all work. So what I suggest is that you have to value your time more than your money. And that's, I think, where most people go wrong, is they don't value their time more than their money. Now, time is a non-renewable resource. So if you spend it doing the wrong things, the likelihood is that you're going to waste that time and you're not going to make the money you need to hire other people. Sometimes it is just about, biting the bullet. When you can afford half the salary, just hire the person, you'll find the other half. Because simply that's just how it works. But if you never do it, and look, most people can afford to hire somebody else if they just sat and thought about it. Because if you thought about, let's say, I remember working with a dance studio years ago when I was coaching, and we did a time study, and 75% of her time was spent actually running classes. Now, she loved running the classes, which is, I think, pretty typical. Would I be right, Clint, of most dance studio owners? Yeah?
You are.
Yeah, and so she loved running the classes. So she didn't want to drop that at all. But I said, well, let's work out what you're getting paid per hour to run a class. And if we use that same time, let's say it was a 2-hour class, with that 2 hours, what could you do with that 2 hours, knowing what your skill level is with talking to schools or parents or groups or whatever it might be, using that time to go out and get more sales? Could you fill another class up? Could you hire another teacher? Could you create another program? Could you go into another area and open a new studio? If you could invest that time, maybe you can do other things that will actually make you a lot more money. So that's why I said at the beginning, you've got to make that decision. Do you want to just be a dance studio teacher, and have a job? Because you don't have a business. If the business relies on you, you can't call it a business. It's a job and you're self-employed, and it's a hard pill to swallow, but that's the reality. So you've got to make the decision, do you want that, or do you want a business? And a business is something that because I could start a dance studio tomorrow, Clint, and probably be wildly successful because I don't dance. Yes. And the benefit is I can't deliver any of the classes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I love that. And, I think one thing that you touched on that we talk about a lot is, really looking at where you're spending your time. and then being able to say, look, if I brought on a teacher, even to take 5 hours away from me every week, what could I fill those 5 hours with that is going to then bring in double the amount of students, or that's going to, move the business forward, or introducing additional revenue streams. And that's really the only way that you can really look at that. So I'm glad you brought it up. Thanks. Now, obviously, to bring in more students, to make more money, we need to have some sales systems in place. We need to have some maybe training around sales. And for a lot of studio owners, when they hear the word sales, they think of the car salesman, or, the insurance broker, or something like that they, hear from once a year, and they're slimy and they just want to take money away from you. And obviously, selling dance classes is a lot more than just, teaching kids how to dance. But what would you say to our studio owners who, might not have a solid enrollment process in place to bring in new students and kind of take them through that journey to get them to, convert, be an enrolled student, or just kind of feel yucky when they hear that word sales?
Yeah, so I think, you're in this beautiful position where you don't actually have to sell anymore. In 2016 and beyond, we've got a marketing platform that is amazing. And there's so many ways to influence people these days to make a buying decision that if you're not capitalizing on those, you're in trouble. And they're things like, for example, using video, or using testimonials, and once again with video, using just using the experience. You're a service-based business, so using the experience of your studio to help people make a decision. And people will buy. People are looking at reviews and online sort of properties more and more now, like websites, etc., to make buying decisions more than they ever have. So I would suggest that you need to have a sales process, definitely. And I know the word sales can be a little bit yucky for people, and it's about understanding that you don't need to be a slimy, yucky salesperson. In fact, no one likes to buy from that person.
No, of course not.
Yeah, so what I suggest is you be the consultative type of salesperson, or problem solver, and you just make sure people are well informed and educated about how to make a decision, because what happens is most people aren't trained in how to educate their prospect to make an informed decision. And so the thing is, you want to start educating your prospects. So when someone makes an inquiry, I would have a sales process that might have 4 or 5 different aspects to it that fulfills different things, like making sure that they see all the reviews that I have on my Facebook page, for example. Now, if you're a dance studio and you have a Facebook page and you don't have any reviews, then it's time to turn that on and tell every single current student or customer to go and leave a review if they're happy. And, you get 40 or 50 5-star or 4-star reviews. You'll get an average of somewhere between 4 and 5. That carries a huge amount of weight, more weight than anything you can say to that prospect when they come in to buy. The other thing is, grab yourself your iPhone or your smartphone and take some videos, just 1 or 2 minute videos of people answering a couple of questions as to why did they choose the studio, what makes the studio great, and what would they say to somebody who was thinking about coming into the studio. And start a YouTube channel, just stick those up there. So when people do make an inquiry, you can shoot them a quick email saying, thanks for inquiring, click here to see to check out our Facebook page, and that link should go straight to the reviews. Click here to check out our YouTube channel. I look forward to seeing you in the studio for you, and do a free lesson or something to get them in. But let your customers do the selling for you. It gets a lot easier.
Yeah, totally. I love that. That's really great. Great advice. And I'm hoping our association members that are listening have already done that with their Facebook reviews, because it's something that we talk about a lot, because they're checking out our website. They're going onto all of our social media platforms. They're also, checking us out on Instagram now, and a lot of the kids are on Snapchat, and, we've got to be present there, and we've got to be doing a lot of work there. Ben, what are some of the mistakes that you see with some of the clients that come to you when it comes around marketing their business?
Wow, some of the mistakes. I'll try and keep this one short. There's a lot of mistakes. I think the first thing is thinking that every bit of marketing works. A lot of people have this misconception.
I love this.
Yeah. And the reality is, not even a marketing consultant can tell you what will and won't work. Now, we've got a lot of experience in helping clients with marketing, and it's impossible for us to say we guarantee this will work. So, you've got to go into every piece of marketing as a test case and say, I'm going to do this on a small scale. And when I say a small scale, you might spend $500 or $1,000 on a campaign to test it. and that'll give you some good data, and then you'll be able to see whether or not you're getting a return on investment. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing is then not testing and measuring what's going on. So if you are doing marketing and you're not measuring your acquisition cost per lead, and what that means, Clint, is that let's say you spend $1,000 on marketing and you get 10 leads, that's $100 a lead. So you need to know what that number is, because we want to consistently be driving that acquisition cost down, because that means we get more leads in the door for the same dollar. And then we also want to be measuring our conversion rate from those leads, because generating leads is one thing, but then we need to make sure that they're quality and we have a process for converting those into a customer. And so we need to be testing and measuring those, and also things like lifetime value. So some lead sources, you might find the students you get from that particular lead source stay with you longer or give you more referrals or are a better quality student or whatever it might be. So there's all these different, what I call KPIs, key performance indicators, that you've got to measure. So that would be the second thing. The third mistake I see people making with marketing is not having a marketing plan and a marketing budget. And what that leads to is what I call reactive decision making. So, for example, let's say I've got a dance studio. Joe Blow from the local media rings me up and says, "Hey, I've got this fantastic advertising deal on for this month." They put you into this position of having to make a decision that's misinformed, because you don't have a budget, you haven't thought about who your target market is, you don't have a marketing plan, and they've got this great offer that's going to run out at 5 o'clock tonight because that's their sales process. You make a decision, you invest $2,000 or $3,000 into a strategy, and then you get upset when it doesn't work. Well, you've got to sit down and you've got to spend, when I talk about working on your business, part of that time is sitting down going, okay, I've got to think about who my ideal client is. Where am I going to find them? How am I going to target them? What offer should I make to them that's going to compel them to buy from me? And then when someone approaches you, you can go, well, I just don't have the budget for that, or I'm already investing in 3 other things, and you might be testing some other things. And it is about consistently, tweaking things. And I look at things like, Facebook right now. So many people are losing so much money marketing on Facebook, and I hear people say it doesn't work. Well, it doesn't work if you don't do it right.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we say.
Yeah, there's 19 million people on Facebook. Even in my industry, people say, Facebook won't work. In fact, my digital marketing agency didn't want me to put ads on Instagram. And I said, no, I'm telling you, business owners are on Instagram. We get a lower acquisition cost from Instagram than from Facebook. But it's because we know how to target and we understand what offers to make that are going to compel people to take action.
Yeah.
And so, for a dance school, honestly, if I was marketing, I would just market a free trial everywhere. Get people in so they can experience, because people, once they get a great experience, it's much easier for them to buy from you than off of any marketing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, and the free trial we talk about, a lot, and a lot of people are doing free trials. But I'm so glad that you said, that all marketing doesn't work, because I feel like, especially with Facebook, we've got a lot of studio owners who, will try Facebook once, spend $10 and say it doesn't work. Facebook marketing's not for me, it doesn't work. And we know that we're going to need to spend some more money to test it first up, but it's, it's the audience. So like you said, it's who we're targeting. It's the offer we're presenting that audience with, I think is the other big thing is because some audiences don't want to see some particular offers, but other offers will be attractive to them. So it's testing that. It's the landing pages. It's the artwork. It's the process of opting in. There's always so many variables, right, of where you might need to tweak a campaign.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think that's one of the challenging things. Now, if I just thought of a question, if our studio owners are kind of listening to this and maybe they're not marketers, maybe they have no interest in marketing, how would you suggest for them to kind of work on their marketing? Should they bring someone on board to help them with that? Should they learn and figure it out themselves? What advice do you give to your technician business owners that maybe not be interested or have the knowledge around marketing? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, and once again, great question. I think, as a dance studio owner, if you're not interested in marketing, you need to find somebody that is. Because, marketing, if you think about business, there's 4 key functions in it for a business to be successful. There's lead generation, there's sales, there's delivery, so making sure the clients are happy, and then there's the business side, which is the bookkeeping and the systems, etc. So those 4 machines have all got to run. Now, the lead generation machine, the marketing machine, is the first of those 4 machines, and if it doesn't work, the other 3 have nothing to do.
Yeah.
So you've got to make sure that your lead generation is working. And so if marketing is not your passion, is not something that you want to do, and you may have built a business to what I call your level of competence or your glass ceiling because you're passionate about what you do and you've had some referrals and you're a good dance teacher, etc. But you now go, you know what, I want to build a bigger business and I need to be able to bring in surplus leads or students. Then you do need to start thinking about who else you can talk to. Now, here's the challenge. You can't remove yourself from it completely because only you know 100% who it is you're after. A marketing consultant is going to have to sit down with you and say, okay, who is your ideal target market? Who am I? Because they need to know who to target. Like you look at Facebook, for example, now, even for a small business like a dance studio, they're going to have to run maybe 60 to 100 different types of ads to target all the different groups that they may want to target. And so the better you know your ideal customer, the better it is, the easier it is to market and the cheaper it becomes. So, you want to segment your group up. So you can't just say, I want to target people that are, X age to X age and female. It's just no good to do that anymore. You now need to say, I want to target people in this 2-year gap, like maybe they're people that are between 18 and 20 and they're interested in this, and this. And so you can really get really pinpoint accuracy. And with marketing these days, it's easy to do. So I would suggest you definitely have to find somebody to help you. Now, getting a marketing consultant or marketing, what we call a CMO, a virtual chief marketing officer, can be quite an expensive affair and out of the reach for most small businesses. So you have to get creative and you have to find somebody, like maybe one of the students' mums is a marketing guru that's not working anywhere that wants some part-time work, or you've got to start getting creative. And the best thing to do is just put it out there and say, I need some help with my marketing. I'm looking for someone with a huge amount of marketing experience that's looking for some part-time work. You might pay them, $30, $40, $50 an hour, and away they go. They do the work for you. And you just include that in your acquisition costs. They should give you a return on their investment. It shouldn't cost you any money to work with something like that.
Totally. I agree. Thanks for sharing that. That's really useful because I know a lot of people are going to be sitting there thinking, asking those questions. Systems. I know at Action Coach, you guys are really about creating kind of bulletproof systems so that business owner can, remove themselves, not being in the day-to-day. Now, for our studio owners who again may think, systems, really? That's not creative. That's not using my right brain. How important are systems in our business and how should we start, creating them and introducing them if for the studio owner everything is living inside of their head?
Yeah, I think systems is one of the key things, and I think people overcomplicate systems. And so the way that I like to look at it and teach people is to say, if you have to do something more than once, then it's time to systemize it or write it down. And what I mean by that is, let's say you do hire a dance teacher and they ask you the same question 2 or 3 times, or you have a training that you do with them. There's no reason why you can't systemize that, and it's very simple to systemize. It can be something simple like how to lock up the studio overnight. Yep. Rather than having to explain to someone how to do that, you grab your smartphone and you've got your smartphone's got this beautiful HD video recorder in there now, and you grab your smartphone and you just hold it in front of you and you point it at whatever you're doing and you just record your voiceover and you say, here's how we lock up the studio, and you walk across to the alarm system and you show how to use that and you show how to lock the windows and pack up the dance mats or whatever it might be, and you record that and you put it up on a Google Sites, which is free, and that you give your team access to with logins, or a WordPress site, once again, which is free with logins, and they can go to that page and they can look at all these videos, or it could be a checklist, it could be anything, right? So it's anything that has to be done more than once. You want to systemize right down to how do we answer the phone? Like a lot of places don't have a phone script for when an incoming phone call comes in, but you look at the success of some of the biggest companies on the world, like McDonald's. McDonald's don't make very good hamburgers, but man, oh man, they've got 30,000 stores in 113 countries. And it doesn't matter which one you go to. They all look the same. They've all got Big Macs. They've all got a Big M out the front. It's all this consistency. And I think, a small business, whilst they go, my business is different. I get that. You're a small business and you've got that personal touch. But still, customers want consistency. So it doesn't matter who greets them at the door or on the phone. If you have a consistent greeting, it's going to be a good thing. So anything that's done on a routine basis, I say systemize. Of course, you're going to have to humanize the exceptions. There are times when people are going to have to use their smarts to work out what to do. When a customer, for example, is not happy, makes a complaint, of course you can have a system for recording and handling it, but how you talk to the customer, maybe you can't script. You've got to you've got to have some, use your own nous for that and common sense.
Totally makes a lot of sense, and is is super crucial in running a successful business that doesn't rely on you 24/7. I want to jump to staff. And you mentioned before, I'm actually not I'm not the coach anymore. I've got a team, and so you've obviously acquired some leadership skills over the last few years building a team. What do you think are 2 or 3 of the most impactful lessons you've learned as a leader?
So the first thing is, no one's born a leader. And you've probably heard that, they're a born leader. No one is born a leader. And so the good news about that is that it is something that can be learnt. And so probably the first or the top few impactful lessons that I've learned over time is, number one is, you've got to treat your team with the utmost of respect and understand that they are individual people with lives that are more important than your business. And it's easy to get caught up in the fact, say, I pay them a wage, they should just do what I say, because that's not true. That's not a good way to think. I think the more you can be flexible and help them get the most out of their life by being a part of your organisation, the more likely they're going to be willing to help you achieve your goals as well and stay longer. So I think that's critical. I think another critical thing, Clint, which a lot of people mess up on, is that if they do have a bad egg in their business, they don't get rid of them. And it can be hard, right? It's confronting. It's a scary moment. No one likes doing it. I mean, over the years, I've had to move many people on, and I never like it. It's the most unenjoyable part of being a leader. However, the rest of your team will look down on you if you don't do it. They'll be disgruntled. There'll be resentment from them because you're letting a substandard team member play on the team and not do anything about it. Yeah. And it may not be removing them straight away, but you've certainly got to counsel them. You've got to talk to them. You're going to have to hold them accountable to doing their job. And then if they don't, move them on. And I find people, they'll say to me, but it's so hard to find good people. And I look at their team and they go, this person really is a really bad employee. And I go, what training have you done with them? They go, no, none. And what coaching have you done with them? None. And you go, well, you get what you deserve. And that's a real hard pill to swallow as well. But you do get what you deserve. So if you've got people working for you that don't put the effort in or that you don't like, well, bad luck. You chose to have them there and you've kept them there, right? So you've got to be a good leader, the third thing then is you've really got to learn it. You've got to study it. And it was probably maybe 5-6 years ago for me, I had almost a major coup in my business where the team were getting together outside of the business and having meetings about, or maybe leaving and taking all the clients. And it was a real messy period of time in my business, but it was a reflection of the leader that I was being or not being. And I really had to quickly work out that, the team needed me to step up, and it meant that I had to go and learn. So I think I bought about, 10 books on leadership, and I just consumed as much as I could. And a book that I can recommend for everybody, there's two books that I would recommend every single business owner reads. One is The ABCs of a Winning Team by Blair Singer. And I think he partnered with Kiyosaki in that. But Blair Singer, the ABCs to a Winning Team. And the other one is The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership by John C. Maxwell. And if you read those two books and you implement those lessons into what you do day to day, you'll be a much better leader.
Awesome. Thanks for that. We always love getting book resources here for our studio owners, and 2 is very manageable. I want to wrap up now, Ben. I could talk to you for such a long time, but would you like to leave our studio owners with one last pearl of wisdom? You've given so many, but is there something you want to share that you think our studio owners need to hear?
You know what? If there's one thing I can say, and it's not my quote, I wish it was. I was, started on my entrepreneurial journey. I'm a sponge, and so I go looking for people to learn from. And one of my great heroes of entrepreneurship was a fellow called Jim Rohn. And unfortunately, he passed away a couple of years ago, but his legacy lives on. You can get all his audio on audio books and iTunes. Yeah. He is amazing. And he said, if you work hard, you'll make a living. He said, but work hard on yourself and you'll make a fortune. And so, I think when people leave school, that accountability to graduate every year disappears. And what's a shame is I see so many adults, business owners in particular, that are willing to repeat the same year after year and make it okay. As where, if your child was in school and had to repeat year 4 for so many years they were driving themselves to school, it would be completely unacceptable. But as a business owner, I see people, they're just happy to photocopy this year and do it for years and years. And 10 years down the track, they'll live in the pain of regret. is where 10 years earlier, if they just had a little bit of discipline, that pain of discipline, to actually take time out, work on the business, work on themselves, they'd be in a much better position. So, I would just repeat Jim Rohn's quote and say, work harder on yourself than you do on your job, because that's what it's all about.
Yeah, agree with you 100%. Ben, awesome to chat with you. Where can our studio owners get more information about you and what you're up to?
Well, I'd suggest just going to maxmyprofit.com.au. And that website is my main website. You'll see there's a free business planning template you can download. There's, I do a weekly podcast where I interview business owners. I have a daily business tips podcast as well. So there's a whole stack of stuff there that's absolutely free, zero opt-in, so you don't have to feel like you're going to get spam. We don't do that. Just go and check it out. So maxmyprofit.com.au, and you'll be able to connect with me from there.
Awesome. Sounds perfect. And I think we've got a link as well for our listeners of an ebook that you're giving away.
Great stuff.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks again so much, Ben. Appreciate your time, and look forward, studio owners, to hearing all the things you've implemented from this conversation with Ben. Certainly a lot of gold nuggets in there.
Yeah, thanks so much for your time, buddy.
Thank you for joining us today. For all the resource links from the show and to receive access to our free dance studio growth training, make sure you visit transformmydancestudio.com.